Hey everybody, Eric Switzer here from The Gamer, joined by George Foster.
Hello.
Just George.
Yeah, nothing. No fan of many things this time.
Well, we don't have time for that. We're playing Dead Rising.
Ooh, good segue.
You're playing Dead Rising. I haven't played it yet. I've actually never played it. I know it by reputation. I actually have some friends that worked on Dead Rising. What's the last one? 4?
4. Oh.
4. They worked on the mini golf. They did the mini golf expansion.
Oh, cool. Yeah, shame about the rest of Dead Rising 4. I will give you the George tale of it.
Okay.
I am a fan of many things. How many times do I have to say it? But
We've
it's
heard.
true. Dead Rising is probably in my top 5 ever.
Do
The
you have a
first one
tattoo?
anyway. I don't. Surprisingly, I don't. I was gonna get the PP
Liar.
sticker. So it's coming. It's coming.
All right.
It's planned. But the first game just means so much to me. Like,
Okay.
I know a lot of things do.
Isn't it a little before your time though?
It is. Yeah, I was 7 at the time. But I remember seeing the cover. So in the UK we have the cover, and it's like the really scary one. It just has like the zombies looking at the front, and it's really freaky. And I remember seeing that, and there was something about it that felt like, oh, I guess the big 18+ thing on the front. It felt off limits.
Yeah.
Like it felt like forbidden. So obviously I became obsessed. And then I played it, and I didn't really get the first one for a while because it's so what's the word? Specifically crafted, I think is the word I would use for Dead Rising. There are a lot of cogs working all at once to deliver what it does. Right, so you've got the timing, you've got the survivors, you've got the resource management, you've got the levels, you've got the photography, like all of that working in sync. Sometimes annoyingly the survivors suck, but it works in sync to deliver just one of the most unique games out there. So I didn't get that at first. Dead Rising 2 comes along, makes it a lot more simplistic, you have combo weapons. I got that, and then I went back, and then Dead Rising 1 just became like one of my favorite games ever. Like I know nearly everything about this game. I love it.
Is Dead Rising 1... No, never played. Is it kind of like the Arkham Asylum to the Arkham series? Like it's sort of like different and more contained and like more handcrafted?
Yeah, you know, I would call it that because, you know, the other games took what worked about the first one and kind of ran with them, but they also did what every sequel does and expand.
Yeah.
So like 2 is a really good sequel because it doesn't expand too much. Like it still has everything that makes Dead Rising Dead Rising. But then the third one just went like, oh, it's open world now. Like you have a massive map, like really not getting the point. And then 4 was like, there's no timer. And it just sucked. Like, it was just bad.
Okay.
So the first one stands as what the series should be. Like, it just gets it. Like, it is so distinctly Dead Rising. I love it.
Okay, so this is the remaster?
Well. Okay, so they remastered it in 2016.
Yeah.
Just HD ported it, basically. Really good version of it, in my opinion. This is basically a remake.
Okay.
So I know you like your Capcom remakes. You love Resident Evil 4.
Love Resident Evil, yep.
I assume you like 2 and 3. Well, maybe not 3, but you like 2 as well.
Yeah. I like 3 remake as much as I like 3.
So, middling. Yeah, that seems to be the reception. This feels like Capcom's way of doing a middle ground between that, where it's like on the quality of those remakes, but those remakes change a lot.
Yep.
They're not really remakes at all, it's more reimagining. This is a remake in this sense. It's a lot the same stuff. It hasn't changed too much, but it has also updated it a lot. Does that make sense?
I mean, but Resident Evil 2 remake is pretty close to what 2 was. It's just they added stuff, I think.
But
the layout of the levels are kind of the same.
Yeah, but they also completely changed how you play that game. By
True.
Over the shoulder, like it is. It's like set in the world of, but it does it differently.
Okay.
Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster is, what if it looked better? We improved how it played, but it played the same. Are you with me so far? Because it is confusing. calling it Deluxe Remaster was really stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did that, but...
So what's new?
So, the main thing that's new is the visuals. I guess that's where you should start.
Okay.
I'll get there. It gets more minute from there. So the visuals are the main thing. It's using like all the same animations and the same, like the cutscenes are the same like layout, but like Frank looks completely different. I don't know if you've seen how Frank looks now compared to how
But
he
are
did.
they the same cutscenes?
Yeah, so the story's the same.
Okay.
The main difference there, God, this could go into a tangent, I won't let it, but they've changed a lot of the voice actors. So Frank's no longer voiced by TJ Rotolo, he's now voiced by someone else. Sounds worse.
Yeah.
If you want my only complaint so far, well, one of my only complaints so far is that Frank is just a worse character. And that's hard to say to you because you haven't played the original.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean, but okay.
But he was like
All right.
distinctly cheesy. You know, like he was very... It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. You need to play Dead Rising. But he is a completely different character now in terms of vibes. Like, he gives off like a weathered old man. Like, these whippersnappers. Like, that's how he feels now with the new voice actor. And, like, he looks so much older as well. Like, in the original, he kind of felt like he was a bit of an asshole, but he was, like, cool. He was calm. Like, he was young buck just trying to make a name for himself sort of vibe. Now it's, like, creaky old back. Not the same Frank West. He's not as bad as Dead Rising 4 did, which was just a different character. Like, that was just a butcher. But it feels like the one big mark on this really cool, otherwise remake.
That they've changed the character too much.
That's the difficult thing. They haven't changed the character at all. He has these exact same voice lines. He does exactly the same stuff. It's just the voice actor. It's in the original game. He is just Frank West. Like, it's what comes to mind. You hear his voice, you know who he is. He's a very defined character. But in this one, because I've thought about this a lot. Okay, there's a lot of moving parts here, but
Where are the others?
because they haven't changed his character, because he's saying the same lines, you really notice it.
Right.
That it's not him.
Yeah.
If they'd done what Resident Evil 2 Remake did, where they were just like, well, it's Leon, but it's a new dialogue, new script, you wouldn't care as much. But because they're just redoing what the original did, just with a different voice, it just doesn't feel right. Like, it's very uncanny valley.
Yeah. I get it. Our memories are attached to sound, our senses, and so like it sounds wrong because he's saying the same stuff, but it's a different guy. I get it.
Exactly. Like, I got chills every time. I was like, ooh, that's not right. And the thing is, whoever's doing it, they haven't announced. He does a good job. Like, it's not bad acting. It's not, oh god, where'd they get this guy? Like, he seems to be pretty into it. It's just not Frank West. And for someone who hasn't played Dead Rising, you might be like, okay. But for the people who have, the freaks like me who are like really into it, it matters. Like, it's a big like point.
Yeah.
But that's one of my only ones. That's like one of the biggest things they've changed. I don't hate it, but I'm not happy about it. Like, it's like,
Yeah. But how does the game hold up?
Really well, yeah. So, at its core, it's still the same thing, but they've made like a bunch of little changes to how it, I guess, like quality of life features. So the original game is now 18 years old, I believe.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is janky. It was already kind of a janky specific game in how it controlled and how it wanted you to do things because of the timer, because of saving survivors and how crap they were. So there's a lot of things that felt very 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So there are all these things that were really specific, and it's kind of why I love Dead Rising. I love how specific the time is, and dealing with the survivors is painful, but it makes it feel more rewarding. Like, it's a really tough game. Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster has kind of gone, okay, we'll give you the zombie killing, we'll give you all the items you can pick up, everything's the same, but all of it is easier to do. So
What do you mean?
So in the sense, like, you have these one of the best examples, you have skill moves in the original game, and they were really hard to execute, so you had to, like, stand like it would be a blue moon, and you have to stand behind the zombie, and then you have to press 9 button commands that are the same for every special move. Like it's just like a weird way to do it. And then this game's gone like, oh, just hold RB and press B.
Gotcha. Okay.
So like that's like one example.
It's modernized.
Yes, that is the easier way to say like my very, very long train of thought. But like stuff like this, autosave now, survivors are easier to rescue because their AI is better. You have like a weapon durability bar instead of just guessing based on how many times you've used it. Stuff like collectibles in the world are outlined better, so you know where they are. It's all like
I like this. I think that we should do this to more games. I think that's controversial because, you know, but those old games still exist. Like
that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
It's one thing if you can't play the old one anymore, but that's not that very rarely happens. And it's a big deal when it does, and I think it's wrong when they replace the original with a new, worse version. But in this case, like, if you have your Dead Rising disc, or even the 2016 version, like, that game still exists. And I like the idea that they've, like, taken out the parts that suck, because games have gotten better in 16 years or whatever. Like, they've just made it easier to play and more to the inclinations, more to the what people expect from games today. And maybe that'll change in 10 or 20 years and we'll have to like update games again, but I think that's totally fine. I think that's a cool way to do it.
You see, I think that is a really interesting way of viewing it, because as someone who hasn't played Dead Rising, I feel like that's how most people are going to feel. I think when you hear, hey, you can walk while you aim guns now, of course you're instantly going to go, yeah, that's an obvious change. But because Dead Rising is so known for its challenge and so known for working against you and you figuring out ways to go against it, for me, who's played hundreds of hours across the series, I'm kind of like, ooh, do I like this? Is it removing the identity of it? And I've decided no. I've decided I love this. That's where I'm going with all this, but I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't remove anything because the original still exists.
Exactly.
I think. Like, this can just be a different thing. Cool. Well, that makes me more interested in playing it the way you're describing it, for sure.
Yeah, it's the way to look at it is Dead Rising before this was dead. Dead Rising 4 ruined the series. Capcom did not care about it. It was gone. No one was interested except the fans. This version of the game, which is basically the same version, just made so much prettier and with a ton of quality of life features that makes it more modern. This is how the series comes back. This is how people get interested.
The problem is this title, dude. This title's horrible.
Doctor.
The title makes it sound like it's for the fans.
Yeah, this is where I feel like they're struggling. It's kind of hard to market because it is a remake. That's what's so weird about calling it a remaster.
They should have just called it. Yeah, they should have just called it remake.
It's built from the ground. I believe the words they've used is from the ground up. It's not just like, oh, we've made it a bit prettier and it's the same thing. It has a lot of the same mechanics and it kind of plays the same.
I would have assumed that it was the 2016 remaster and that they've added like director's cut or like special features the way Last of Us did with like commentary or like extra concept art. That's what I would have thought.
That is exactly what it sounds like. But actually, The Last of Us is a good comparison point. Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster is like if The Last of Us Part 1 had changed it to be like Part 2's combat and added the dodge.
God,
and stuff like that.
Could you imagine?
That's what I've expected The Last of Us to be. That is what Dead Rising is. It makes enough changes that it's the best way to play it, undeniably. I just don't know if that's something most Dead Rising fans are going to be like too jazzed about. I think they're going to find it too easy. Because I have, from what I've been able to play so far. I still love it. I'm just so glad Dead Rising's back, and this is undeniably an improvement and the best way to play Dead Rising there has ever been. I just worry it's lost a little bit of its identity and difficulty in that process.
Well, can you just play it on hard mode? Like,
I don't think there is one.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing is, where I'm coming from as well, I know this game inside and out. So of course I find it easier when they've made skill moves work properly and you can move while you aim.
Yeah.
And all that. Like, of course it's going to be easier because they now have the functionality to do that. So it's a weird place to be in.
Yeah,
to talk about it.
I go back and forth on this whole thing of like, oh, it being unfair is part of the game's identity. Like, oh no, you're supposed to struggle through it, because like, I typically think that's BS, except when it's not. You know, like Returnal is a very brutal, punishing game that will like drown you in a pit of despair. But that is part of the experience because it's tied thematically to the narrative of that game. Like that's how you relate to Celine. That's how it pulls you into the themes. What that game is about is making yourself suffer. And you do that by playing the game, and it works together in this way, like just a really beautiful way. But then when it comes to Dark Souls, and people are like, no, like suffering and failing and having to walk 2 miles back to the boss that's already kicked your ass 7 times. That's the point. I'm like, no, what's the point? You know, like I totally appreciate the idea of like overcoming something really difficult and how that makes it more rewarding in the end. But like, oh, the controls are super annoying.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
Where do we draw the line?
I think the difference there for me would be that Dead Rising isn't as tough. For one, Dead Rising is not as tough as like a Souls-like. It's a hard game. It's a specific game where you need to manage your time and choose the right items and manage your inventory. But it's not, even the original game isn't like anywhere near unbeatable. Like, this is like the top 50 hardest game. It's just challenging.
Uh-huh.
But I think the perfect example for me would be, there's a boss fight in the preview build I played. You get to go to a certain boss fight against Adam the Clown. I don't know if you've ever seen that. He's a clown with chainsaws. He's iconic. He's great. You'll love it when you play it. And usually you go to him, and in the original game you're like, right, I know he's got a ranged attack, I know he's got close-up attack, so I'm going to pack a gun, I'm going to pack loads of healing items, I'm going to be really prepared, I'm going to know his moves inside and out, and I know that I can't move when I aim, so I have to be far enough away to get him. So it's like, you have all this knowledge, and you know what you're doing, and that makes it so much more satisfying when you do it. And then for the remaster, I was like, oh, I'll just chance it. I know what I'm doing anyway. And I didn't bring like half the stuff I needed, and I just beat him with no problem. Like that, I didn't need that prep time. And it's just because it's easier to play.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and
you lose like stuff that felt fundamental to the design of the game.
Yeah, and it's weird because, you know, you could argue, and maybe part of me is arguing, that is essential to Dead Rising's core, that is so ingrained into what it is, but I still love what this is. Like, getting to see Willamette Mall look better than it ever has. Like, it's not just better textures, like, they've redesigned parts of the mall to have, like, themes. So Paradise Plaza is like a water theme, and it looks beautiful, it's so cool. And then Wonderland Plaza is just, they go heavier on, like, the space theme, there's, like, a roller coaster. All that is so good that, you know, if it's a bit easier, the edges are sanded off a bit, like, I'm there for it. Like, I'm just so happy to have Dead Rising back.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, what do you think? Is this one for the fans, or is this the Return of Dead Rising? Is this something that I'm gonna vibe with? Because what you're explaining now is like this new take on nostalgia, right? Like, the joy of it is experiencing something you love in a new way, which I won't have.
I think if you're going into it for the first time, you're going to see what a lot of people fell in love with, and you're probably going to remove the part of it that is the struggle. You're going to love the time management, you're going to love the psychopaths, you're going to love, hopefully, some of the characters that have been changed around less. You're going to love exploring and finding weird weapons to use. You're just not going to have to flick the stick in a direction twice to dodge roll and hate your life whenever you do it.
Yeah.
So I think it is going to work for newcomers, and I think if as a fan you can let that go and you can understand it's not going to be as tough as it was 18 years ago, I think you're going to, that's where I fall on it now. I've put that aside and I love it for what it is. From what I've played.
The time management is a turnoff.
For you?
Yeah. I think for most people. I think when most people hear, like, oh, you only have a certain amount of time to do things and then they go away forever, like that opportunity cost, like, it sounds like every moment is going to be stressful. Like, I don't want to have to think about... I haven't played the game, so I don't know, but what I'm imagining is there's just a clock on the screen, and I'm like, oh god, am I wasting time? And wait a second, video games are a waste of time. What am I doing? I need to go outside.
Pinball.
What have I done with my life? Yeah.
I get what you mean, because this is like conversation number 2 you have with Dead Rising, is the time is stressful. Oh my god, I hate it. Give me a sandbox mode. And I guess that's really valid, because I understand that concern. When I first started playing the series, I was like, oh, I wish I could just walk around without dealing with a timer.
Yeah.
But like, the more you play, the more you realize that the time is not that stressful. What's stressful is being like the right level. So basically in Dead Rising, you start a run, I guess I'd call it. It's not really a run. You start the campaign, you level up as much as you can through doing side quests, rescuing survivors, killing zombies, and then if you fail the main story and you see the bad ending because you didn't do all the main missions, you just restart with that level rank. So say I failed at like level 22, I can go back in at level 22, and then you can do it successfully. So the whole clock thing seems really stressful at first, but once you realize your first run of the game is just to level up, learn the mechanics, and get used to the map, and then the second one's where you do the story in one go, it removes a lot of the stress. I feel like a lot of people won't get that. I'm more telling you so you understand.
How much time is on the clock?
72 hours. I believe it's 6 minutes an hour. So it's like 7 hours, one playthrough.
No, I'm not.
No?
I'm not playing a 7-hour game to fail and restart.
No, you don't have to do that. That's how I've always done it. Where it's like, the first one's a gimme, you can fail, you don't have to do everything. You can just explore. That's how I've always played them, and that's removed the stress. But you can totally do it in one go, especially this version. Like, I think that's the big changing point. Okay. In the original, if you did what I did, or if you didn't do what I did and you tried to beat it the first go, you're probably going to have a tough time. You won't be the right level, you won't have enough damage and inventory space. But with Deluxe Remaster, I feel like you could totally do it in one go, no problem at all.
Okay. All right.
I think you'll love it. I think you'll see it.
I'm definitely going to try it. Yeah, I should have played it at some point in my life. It was an Xbox game, though.
It was.
Wasn't it? Yeah, so I never had an Xbox. That's why. So.
Well, it's out in a month, so when your third eye is opened and you see Dead Rising for what it is, we will come back and gush about it. Any listeners, bet on it.
All right, gamer. Nice job. This is not the review.
No,
right?
This is the preview. It's just...
Gotcha.
It's difficult. This is another difficulty of it, is that it's so close to the original that I already know how I feel about the original.
Right.
This is just prettier and like easier to play. So I know I'm going to love it unless it somehow changes the last act and turns to like an RPG or something.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. When is it out?
September, I want to say 16th, so like a month away. Not far.
Excellent. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's The Gamer. No spaces.